Hi guys, welcome back to the Spurred On podcast. It's Tuesday, and are we all starting to get over the depressing weekend result? Obviously, I put up my post-match 5 things I felt like I learnt yesterday, and it has really involved or allowed a lot of you to get in touch. Some people particularly annoyed that I used the word crisis in the title. It was question marked crisis. I don't personally think that Big Ange or Spurs are in crisis, but lots of people, especially on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, do think there was a crisis. So I put that there as a question mark, and it's really meant a lot of you have got involved to kind of give your views. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Please do make sure you press subscribe or follow. Subscribe on YouTube or follow wherever you're listening on the podcast platforms. And of course, don't forget, you can be a Spurred On Pro or Patreon member. All the details in the description box below. Only £1 a month. So do get involved if you want to. Today, I'm going to do a Q&A. I reached out last week to you guys at home, asking you to send in your questions, and I will answer them this week, because let's face it, it's going to be a slow news couple of weeks. I will do as many actually as I can, kind of transfer rumour videos, if any kind of big transfer rumours come up this week and next week. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to ask you guys what you want me to talk about and to send in any questions. So listen to this Q&A, and then if you've got any questions, put them in the comments section below, and I'll do some more Q&As. I love talking to you guys and hearing what you guys want me to speak about. So starting off today's Q&A, Kunsu2000 says, if James Maddison and Rodrigo Bentancur had never got injured and Sonny hadn't been absent for a month at the Asian Cup, where would Tottenham sit in the league? I mean, I can add to that, basically, after the Chelsea game, had Christian Romero not got suspended, had Destiny Udogie not got sent off, add to that, after the Luton game and the other sending off that Ibasuma had. Because in those first 10 games, Tottenham were rampant. I really feel like the rest of the Premier League hadn't got to grips with Ange's style of play and with the kind of chemistry that our first 11 certainly had gained together. And since then, it has certainly been a little bit of a struggle. I mentioned it yesterday, I'll mention it again. It's not as simple as the fact that we haven't since been winning as many games, or our form in the table hasn't been as good. It's been that the chemistry between the players who've had to come in to replace those injured players or those suspended players just hasn't been as good. They haven't had a pre-season playing together because that first team had really got to know each other a bit better. And just the kind of the different things that you need within the structure of a team to make it work just wasn't quite there. Now, the irony of that, of course, is that for the game at the weekend against Wolves, we were very close to having our full 11 back for the first team, but then just at the last minute in that week before the game, Porro and Udogie got injured, so we again couldn't quite field them together. But the reality is that is top level football. It's very rare that you're going to get your first team playing together all the time. And in fact, actually what happens quite a lot in the Premier League is it's the teams who have the best luck with injuries and suspensions who do go on the best run. So Arsenal this season, I would argue, have had, in terms of their spine and their best players, had a lot of luck. I'm sure Arsenal fans would say, oh, well, Thomas Partey's been out, but they spent £100 million replacing him with Declan Rice. So I don't think that's really a big issue. They've had their forward line fit the whole time, Martinelli on the left, Saka on the right, and Jesus in the middle, although some of them don't really rate Jesus. So then Kai Havertz comes in, who they were able to spend £60 million on, and as a result, they're having a good season. Liverpool have had a couple of seasons under Jurgen Klopp where they've had big injuries. Van Dijk and Alisson out a few seasons ago, in that season where Alisson had to score a goal for them away at West Brom to get them back into the Champions League in 4th place. And then last season they didn't qualify for the Champions League because they had a terrible injury run. So look, the realities of Premier League football are you have to deal with this stuff. You have to find a way through. And when it happens and you do have injuries to key players, there will be bumps in the road. So that's a roundabout way of saying I actually genuinely think that had we not suffered from the injuries to Maddison and Bentancur and the suspensions to Romero and Bissouma and Udogie and then the Asian Cup taking away Sonny, I think we'd probably be in 2nd or 3rd place. I genuinely do. Now, look, that might be my bias or naivety or whatever you want to call it, but I saw enough in those first 10 games, not just in the chemistry on the pitch, but the chemistry in terms of the bonding and the mentality and how much those guys were loving playing together and being off the cuff and enabling them to use all of their skills and abilities on the pitch with no fear, I think we would have only probably lost 1 or 2 games by now. Liverpool have only lost 2 games. I don't think we'd have been far off Liverpool. That's my thoughts. So thank you, Kunsu2000, for sending in that question. Really appreciate it. Good one. Next question is from Joe Sheridan, 6736, but I'm just going to say it's Joe Sheridan. He says, what is the best Tottenham goal and the best opposition goal you've ever seen live? Okay, well, this is an easy one in terms of the best Tottenham goal. Definitely the best one that I ever saw live, and it was also the best atmosphere and reaction I've ever heard from any stadium I've ever been in when it went in, was in the 2015-2016 season, Pochettino manager season, where we nearly, the kind of third in a 2-horse race season, where we nearly won the league, but Leicester pipped us and then Arsenal pipped us on the last day because as soon as we lost the Battle of the Bridge, we just fell apart. But it was against Arsenal in the North London derby at White Hart Lane when Harry Kane, with his mask on, got the back heel from Dele Alli on the byline, comes inside and bends it into the far corner. Incredible goal, incredible ability needed to do that. Incredible vision needed to see it, and the fact that he was able to execute it whilst wearing a mask because he'd had a cheekbone injury, I think, and in such a huge game. I really do think that the importance of a game is vital when thinking about how good a goal is. And that's why, for me, absolutely without doubt, that is the best Tottenham goal I've ever seen. Just the reaction of the crowd was unbelievable. I was actually there in a box with Smithy, who I did an interview with on this channel a few weeks ago, the Sky Sports presenter, and he used to present on the old Spurred On channel on YouTube. And he took me there really kindly, and it was the first North London derby I'd ever been to, actually, because I'd never been able to get a ticket. I hadn't been a season ticket holder before that. And just that moment, it put us 2-1 up, and we all thought in that ground that this might be it. We might be winning the league. That was going to kind of get us closer up to behind Leicester, I think maybe to within a couple of points. And obviously, beating the North London derby rivals Arsenal at that moment to put us 2-1 up. But some would say in classic Spurs fashion, despite the fact that Arsenal were down to 10 men at that moment, not long later, 10 minutes or so later, Alexis Sanchez equalises. Hugo Lloris let one kind of squirm through him, and Arsenal drew the game, and kind of the air was sucked out of our balloon at that moment. But that was the most incredible goal I've ever seen live. Just as a little follow-up, the second one I would say was from 2003. I used to be a steward at White Hart Lane, and I watched Tottenham versus Everton game as a steward, and Freddie Canute scored an unbelievable volley where he chested it down and volleyed it from about 28, 29 yards. It's when we were wearing the Kappa kit, that kind of team with Robbie Keane, Darren Anderton, Gus Poyet, Teddy Sheringham, Ledley at the back, that tight little Kappa kit, and it was just an unbelievable goal from Freddie Canute. In terms of the best goal I've seen from an opposition player against us live, well, I mentioned the Battle of the Bridge earlier, and I've got to be true to my words. The importance of the game, I think, also adds something to what a goal is like, but also it was just an incredible goal by Eden Hazard to equalise, make it 2-2. We'd been 2-0 up through goals from Harry Kane and Sonny in the first half, and then we just kind of imploded a little bit, and Chelsea came back. And Eden Hazard, I think, basically decided, I'm going to have to take the game by the scruff of the neck. He did so, played a little layoff into Diego Costa, I think it was, who had with his back to goal, laid it back to him. Hazard comes in and bends it into the top corner. Stamford Bridge went delirious. I was absolutely devastated, and to make it worse, me and my cameraman, because we were doing some content outside afterwards, my cameraman Glenn Cowie, absolute legend of YouTube football content, we were sat in the Chelsea end. So all through that game, even when Spurs went 1 and 2-0 up, I had to sit on my hands and pretend I didn't care about Tottenham, pretend I was gutted, but underneath inside my body, I was absolutely, so pumped. Going 2-0 up at Stamford Bridge in this game where we had to win to keep the title hopes alive. And obviously Spurs at that point hadn't won at Stamford Bridge, I think, since 1991 in the Gordon Jury and Gary Lineker years. So to sit on my hands during that was impossible, basically. But it was the only ticket I could get. So I was in the home end. But yes, that Eden Hazard goal was probably the best one I've ever seen live against Tottenham Hotspur. Next question, K-Dog. He says, are you concerned that Dragushin may start to get disillusioned by a lack of minutes? Well, it's a good question, and there are a lot of Spurs fans really calling for Radu Dragushin to get a start. However, I would really argue, can we say that Christian Romero and Mickey van der Ven are playing badly? No, the opposite. I think they're playing really well. I think Radu Dragushin will have been told, in reality, it's going to take some time for you to adapt. Let's see what happens. There are a lot of Spurs fans calling for Dragushin to maybe play in a 3 at the back. That could be an option for Ange. Let's see what happens. And of course, having seen that performance by, Emerson Royal going forward, specifically against Wolves at the weekend, is there a possibility that maybe we could move Romero, say, into that inverted fullback role and bring Dragushin into centre-back? Possibly. That's only if Pedro Porro remains out for the next game. I wouldn't mind certainly having a more attack-minded and technically gifted fullback playing against Crystal Palace at home, but that won't be an easy game because they've got their new manager, Oliver Glasner, in for that now that Roy Hodgson has stepped down. So let's see what happens, basically. But I think with Dragushin, in reality, he's getting some time to adapt, get to know his new teammates, get to know the style of play, work out what the manager wants from him, and as and when an injury comes to our centre-backs, or as and when he moves Romero or someone into a different position, then yes, he'll get his chance. I've no doubt that he's a talented player and he will play many, many times for Tottenham Hotspur over the next few years. The reality of being or wanting to be a big club, you've got to buy quality squad depth, and that's what we've done with Dragushin, and it doesn't mean that he has to play straight away. So I think at the moment, no, in answer to your question, K-Dog, I doubt he'll be disillusioned yet. I think he'll be patient, wait his chance. And when that chance comes along, hopefully he'll snatch it with both hands and we'll really get to see the talent of the player. John Rowe, 1547. Hi, John. Thank you for sending in your question. He says, any favourite memories from your earlier YouTube days? Is there anything you wish you knew then that you know now? So for any of you that don't know, I used to run a YouTube channel and present on it called Spurs SHOULD. And that was from about 2015 to 2017, and then unfortunately the funding got cut out for it. But on that channel, it was myself and Reece James and Craig Mitch were presenters, and Adam Smithy, as I said, and then we had a few other presenters on there as well. It was really amazing, and from there I moved on to work kind of running and presenting sometimes on the Football Republic as well, which was a big overall YouTube channel. So in terms of favourite memories from my earlier YouTube days, honestly, just getting to work with Reece and Craig every week was really fun. Reece is a comedian, and I'd done stand-up comedy before, and I'm doing stand-up comedy again now. So it's really cool to work with him, and he's since gone on to, become a famous comedian, doing Mock the Week pretty much every week before that kind of stopped being on this year. And he's been on Live at the Apollo, and just a very, very successful and talented comedian. I mean, Craig Mitch has obviously gone on to become a big, big influencer. He was on the Filthy Fellas originally, and now very successful football and sport and lifestyle presenter of his own. Really good guys. So that was really, really fun doing all of that stuff, and we did loads of really cool kind of formats every week on that show. So they're the kind of best things I really remember from it. Is there anything you wish you knew then that you know now? Actually, the thing that I really regret is that I didn't start my own channel back then, kind of running alongside it, and continued to grow it all the way from like 2015 to now, because having only started this channel in October, I can really sense how quickly you can build a community and you can get to know your audience and you can engage with them. And I should have carried that on at the time, but unfortunately I was enjoying too much the fact that Spurred On and the Football Republic were run by a big production company, and I was being paid to do it. And at the time I should have kind of been a bit more forward thinking and thought about growing my own community rather than just working for the people who were producing those channels. So thank you, John, for sending in that question. Really appreciate it. Hope that answers it how you wanted to. And finally, Dave Bowerman, 9869. Thank you, Dave, for sending in your question. He says, my question is to ask, when, not if, we win the league under Ange, would you consider a celebratory tattoo? I'm tat-free, but given my forename, Dave, I would consider a "To Dave is to do" with an image of the cockerel holding aloft the title with 2024 inscribed. Well, this was from a few days ago, Dave, before the Wolves game, so I'm not sure if he's feeling quite as confident about the title win now, but maybe he can just change it to whatever year we do win it, maybe 25, 26, something like that. Would I get a tattoo? I'm also tattoo free, Dave. It seems unlikely. My skin is so translucent, I just don't think a tattoo is ever going to suit it. But never say never, because I do know that if Spurs were to win the title or any big trophy, I would definitely be at that bus parade. I would definitely be getting as drunk as I could possibly get. And then when you get in those situations, who knows what kind of idiotic behaviour you'll get up to. And a tattoo could not be ruled out. In fact, I'd probably be so drunk, I may well get Chick King tattooed onto my body somewhere, because that is where I will be standing, watching the boys lifting the trophy as they go along the Tottenham High Road. But hard to think that way after that Wolves defeat, wasn't it? But thank you, Dave, for sending in your questions. Thank you so much for sending in all your questions, guys. If you want a question answered by me on the next Q&A, please put it in the comments below and I will answer the best ones. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget, please do press the subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening. And also, become a Patreon or a Spurred On Pro member. Just £1 a month for loads more content. Cheers, guys. Come on, you Spurs.